Well, hey there. Greetings from Las Vegas and welcome to Season 3 of Beat the Odds. Pro football is back. Think of this show as like a sports betting class with a little pinch of sass. So let's get right to it. Beat the Odds starts right now.
From our Las Vegas studios, this is Beat the Odds, sponsored by Superbook at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, and powered by Sports Grid.
And here we go. Welcome inside our Las Vegas studio. I'm Dave Hall, and this here's some of the sass.
Don't start with me unless you want to replace Jack in the Doghouse. You're halfway there. I'm Mariah Janos. We're pumped up for another season of Beat the Odds, giving you the best sports betting insight out there.
And not to toot our own horns, but toot. The guys have been very good with their picks, so don't screw it up this season. Let's get to it. Coming up on today's show, Teddy and Jack will help us with how to bet these Week 1 games, plus their prop of the week and best bets.
Plus, I'll be chatting with Brandon Marshall about which opening weekend matchup stands out to him, and our friends from Sports Grid are talking up 2 big-time quarterbacks.
Hey Vegas, we're excited to beat the odds with you guys again. Coming up, Joe Lisi and I will preview Caleb Williams' debut with Chicago, plus Aaron Rodgers' return for New York. Sit tight and we will join you in a bit. Back to you guys in Vegas.
All right, we made it, fellas.
Finally.
It's Week 1 of Season 3.
I was almost on the IR today. I pulled my Achilles getting out of the bathtub.
Oh, really? Achilles joke?
Bad
shot at me?
I was going to take some
I'm
of your
healed.
stuff. Thank goodness you're back and ready in full form. We've got games.
And Season 3 of Beat the Odds, the over is cashed
I know.
officially. Yeah.
Finally. And
Wow.
Are there going to be more of those this weekend? Hard to say. Trends go under, but we'll see about this weekend. Exciting moment for everybody, though, when you get football finally here. Everybody wants to jump out there and get after it.
So let's start with some of the, these Week 1 games can be kind of wonky, a lot of changes. What are some good betting angles and advice you might have?
Sure, we talk about Week 1 basic strategy. The number one piece of advice I would give is remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. Slow and steady wins this race. There is no get-rich-quick scheme for Week 1. There isn't. That said, let's not forget these lines have been out since May. So they've been pounded into shape all summer long throughout fall camps. Not that there's no options for Week 1, but this is not a get-rich-quick scheme for Week 1. The prevailing trend, Week 1 unders. They cashed at a 75% clip last year. They were 11-5 in 2022. So the Week 1 unders have been the way to play, at least in recent seasons.
Yeah, the first week, when especially we're talking to somebody who's gambling for money instead of for just entertainment, is that there's just a wet blanket because everybody who's just doing it for fun wants to get after them and have 7 teams and have parlays and stuff. But the reality is, you're just trying to build a little bit of momentum. The last stat he touched on is the big one in this week. Unders have been incredibly profitable, 23-9 on that type of run over the last 2 seasons. I mean, if you just blind bet the under in every single game the last 2 years, you're up like $1,200. So you don't even have to know what's going on. Just, hey, you know what, under. You've been cashing that. So unders, away teams, underdogs, those are going to be where you're going to want to lean here in Week 1.
Is that how you make your picks? You literally blindfold yourself and just
go up and say, I need to see the schedule. Just give me under on all up for 10K.
No, you were money on the unders last year as well, all season long.
Top place 17-4 or 5. I'll never get real credit out of this group for sure. I know Mariah's got a sign somewhere she's going to bring out during that segment. But yeah, good opportunity to make money, but you're going to be able to roll into so much more information as we get further down the line.
And of course, last year, unique in the sense of the primetime games, the national TV games, 70% unders for the full season. That's not going to happen every year, but if you were playing unders last year, it made you a whole lot of money.
All right, we're going to dive more into some of the things these guys like coming up in the next segment. Right now, it's early September, but it feels like Christmas morning in Vegas, definitely at the sports books. Mariah is at the Superbook Westgate, Las Vegas with more.
Thanks, Dave. I'm here with EVP of Superbook Operations, Jay Cornegay. Jay, Week 1 has arrived. The only football we've seen so far has been in preseason. So what are these Week 1 lines based off of?
Well, we're very excited to have football back. And a lot of people ask us about setting these lines for Week 1. What we like to do is just extend last year's powers rankings with a couple adjustments. Of course, the teams have different personnel. There's some injuries going into Week 1. But basically, it's just an extension of last year.
And I'm looking at these lines that you guys have posted, all single-digit spreads so far, the highest around 8.5 with New England. But with these line setting, are they more conservative to start this season until you figure a team out, or what's it based off?
Well, I wouldn't call them conservative. I think the league accomplished what they wanted to do, and that's give us great matchups out of the gate, and that's exactly what they did. So that means some of the worst teams are facing some of the other bad teams in the league, and therefore you have some small lines coming out of the gate.
Now, with that being said, what kind of action are you seeing ahead of week one?
Well, the early actions have obviously been hot and heavy, but we've seen some sharp action on some of these underdogs like Carolina. You got New England out there, Las Vegas, and Washington are some of the sharp plays heading into week one.
All right, Jay, thank you so much. Dave, we'll send it back to you in studio.
All right, thanks to you two. Aaron Rodgers lasted 4 plays last season. 4. See why Jack expects him to play at least 5 this season. It's insight like that is why he gets the big bucks. Plus, Mariah is chatting with our champ, Brandon Marshall, on the defenses he expects to be stout this season.
Before we head to break, which franchise holds the record for most Week 1 victories in league history? The answer coming up next.
Beat the Odds is sponsored by Superbook Westgate Las Vegas and powered by Sports Grid.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you which franchise holds the record for most Week 1 victories in league history. The answer, Green Bay. The team has 51 Week 1 wins, the most all time. All right, let's welcome in our guy, Brandon Marshall. He knows a thing or two about winning a ring. Brandon, the season is officially here. A lot of moves this offseason. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, are there any teams that you're expecting to take that next big step this season and move forward into contention?
Well, I have 2 teams. Well, first of all, Houston, I love what they did last season, but, their offseason this year, and Daniel Hunter, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, I really love Houston and what they're doing and what they're putting around C.J. Stroud. And the team to take a next step, I'm not sure how big of a step, but it'll be Chicago. Obviously they can't be any worse than they were last year. Maybe they can if they have 0 wins. But at the end of the day, I feel like, teams are going to actually have to game plan, for that receiving core. Keenan Allen, DJ, like they have guys and they have a lot of talent that they haven't had in Chicago in a very long time.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing those two. Now, on the flip side, is there any of those top contenders that we saw last year, the KCs, the Baltimores, that you expect a little regression from?
A lot of regression from Buffalo. I don't see them. I think they're going to go downhill. Potentially they can get a 7th seed in the playoffs, maybe, but it's not going to be the same team that we've seen years past. That championship window is over for them, so they'll be on the rebuilding side this year.
And the league has done a really good job with these Week 1 matchups, really good competition out there. Is there any matchup that you're really eyeing for this weekend?
Yeah, I can't wait to see Detroit versus Los Angeles, man. That was a great game in the playoffs last year. Matt Stafford, Jared Goff, they played a really good football game. And I'm also looking forward to seeing, San Fran versus New York. I want to see how Aaron Rodgers bounces back. I think that's going to be a great team, great matchups. The NFL is doing a good job with the Week 1 matchups.
Yeah, they really are. So we are in for an exciting Week 1. Every game this week so juicy. Monday night has some extra sizzle. As you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers back. Jack, I hear you have some words of wisdom, so let's see what you got for us.
I'll tell you, that was a nice little gun show going on over there between Mariah and Brandon. Really, I think it was a tie. I think it's important, we're going into Week 1, to go ahead and temper expectations on not only how much we're going to play, but how many games we're going to play. And what you'll get caught up in with all the different social media things out there is all of the trends, all of the information that you can get. Deciphering through that, knowing what's important is very, very a big part of knowing when to overextend a little or not. So look at a game like Monday night. You've got Aaron Rodgers, incredible against the number. This guy, when his teams hold opponents to under 20 points, his record is ridiculously good, covers in the 80% range. You also have him in openers, really, really good in Week 1. He's the top QB against the spread in openers. And you look at the other side of that, you've got Shanahan that isn't good in openers. He's a 2-5 against the spread. And you also have a big game losers from the year before. They don't fare well, only winning 5 of the last 24 times. So lots of different trends would lead you to believe that New York is the right side of that game. But it doesn't factor in Father Time. It doesn't factor in the fact that San Francisco is the team that last year other than what Kansas City did. So it doesn't factor in those type things. Be real careful in gravitating to some of these trends that will probably lead you in the wrong direction more times than not.
Speaking of gun shows, let's bring in me and Ted. Maybe if we combined, we would equal Mariah. Forget Brandon.
Different level of competition over there.
Hey, we've been talking a lot about unders this entire show so far, and you found one you like?
Sure, absolutely. Let's talk about New England and Cincinnati under the total. You find 41s, 40.5 out there for these two teams. A little bit of a split market right now based on Jamar Chase's questionable status. But of course, when Cincy's top receiver is real iffy, that doesn't necessarily bode well for their offensive success, especially since Cincy has scored 24 points or less in all 5 previous season openers under head coach Zach Taylor. New England's primed to be an under machine this year. This is a squad that has very limited playmaking ability, and I'll put that politely. I just don't see a lot of quick strikes. It's going to be dinking and dunking all year for New England, but that defense is absolutely loaded. Even on paper, it looks good. So you have an elite defense or a good defense and an offense that lacks playmaker with a quarterback that likes to check down. You put it all together. No surprise these two teams went 5-1 to the under in the preseason. I'm expecting more of the same now that the regular season has begun.
It'll be interesting to see how low the totals get with New England over the course of the season, because they're not just a week 1 underplay. They will be, he's right, I mean the entire year, and how low those get, because offensively they are futile.
And staying with that game, you know, Joe Burrow's health, he tends to start slow, so that would also maybe lean towards what you're talking about.
Sure, Burrow hasn't been healthy in August. He's not 100%. I'm not convinced the receiving core and Burrow are going to be in sync in week 1. Put all that together, yeah, you can make a pretty good case for the under in this one. I've got some in my pocket.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. So just how good will Aaron Rodgers and his team be this year? The guys from Sports Grid dive into that for us.
Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi here, where we look at another year for Aaron Rodgers in New York. The first year, a wash, hopefully for Rodgers and New York fans, a once-in-a-lifetime freak accident. Injuries happen, but a torn Achilles for Aaron Rodgers on basically his first play, Joe, is not something anybody could have banked on. So they'll try and reset and run it again. What do you expect from Aaron Rodgers this year?
Well, that's the main cause of concern, Kev. The quarterback to wide receiver relationship from the injury. We saw Deshaun Watson in regards to Cleveland really have some ring rust in terms of the year off in terms of preparation. So I think the same for Aaron Rodgers, especially early on. Talk about a 9.5 win total for the New York team right now, one of the better odds in regards to the AFC and more importantly, the big game. They're going to need the rushing attack with Breece Hall to keep this team into manageable third down situations. And again, the schedule, not very easy. I think it's a very difficult schedule with LA and San Francisco on deck, along with the AFC South. I think they're under the 9.5 win total this year.
You know, I think for Aaron Rodgers and New York, the idea with this team is he is not going to be asked to be at an MVP level. And you're right to bring up the last time he had a full season. It was probably the worst season Aaron Rodgers has ever had as a full-time starter in this league. But the offensive line should be better. Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, first-round draft choice, Olu Fashanu enters the building. And most importantly, one of, if not the best defenses in this league, Joe. And as long as that side can be as consistent and great as they've been, they're going to be in a lot of football games.
Absolutely, and turnovers will be critical, Kev. Let's not forget, Aaron Rodgers, 12 interceptions his last season in Green Bay, 2 picks that cost his team the playoff appearance in regards to the NFC against Detroit. As long as he limits turnovers and relies on the defense, they're going to be there, but that's a big story.
It certainly is, and there are a lot of jobs, it feels like, on the line in New York. Coach, GM, time will tell, but if everything clicks, they do have a very high ceiling. Only time will tell. I'll also quickly mention Sauce Gardner. What a superstar. Could he get into the race for Defensive Player of the Year? We'll find out. Joe Lisi, Kevin Walsh will have you covered.
All right, thanks, fellas. My favorite segment, Jack and Teddy pretend to be tough and fight over the Cleveland quarterback. That's an odd thing to fight about, but they're going to. Our player prop showdown is next.
Before we take another timeout, which running back holds the record for most rushing yards during a Week 1 game? The answer after the break.
You're watching Beat the Odds, sponsored by Superbook at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, and powered by Sports Grid.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you which running back holds the record for most rushing yards during a Week 1 game. The answer, O.J. Simpson. The Buffalo running back went for 250 yards during a 1973 season opener on the road in New England.
All right, you know who never loses in Week 1? Vegas, baby. Undefeated. Every Sunday is awesome here, so come visit us and scan that QR code. It's our website, beattheoddstv.com. Now let's check back in with our friends over at Sports Grid.
Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi here, taking a look at Caleb Williams and Chicago. The first overall pick, the rookie, who they are hoping can be the guy for this franchise that has lacked superstar play at the quarterback position forever, basically. Joe, let's just look at the expectations on Caleb Williams. What do you think he can do in year number 1?
Well, I think he can excite, Kevin. You're talking about a dynamic playmaker last year in regards to USC over the course of the past 2 seasons, 72 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. His ability to extend plays and always keep his eyes down the field. You saw it in the preseason. He's a big playmaker, but he's still raw in regards to reading coverage, and I think that's where you might get growing pains in Chicago, but he does have weapons around him.
The important thing to remember with Caleb Williams is, despite being the first pick, Chicago wasn't the worst team in the league. That was a pick that belonged to Carolina that they were able to acquire. So Caleb enters into a situation where there's a lot more on the table than normal for a player who goes where he went in that draft. They not only already had DJ Moore, they were able to use their own draft choice on Rome Odunze, a wide receiver out of Washington. They brought in Keenan Allen as well, all his years in LA with great play, and DeAndre Swift to play the running back position. This kid has a lot of help, which is why people are so excited.
And that's why you see the 8.5 win total right now. But again, when you look at the division overall, Caleb Williams is still the most experienced behind Jared Goff, Jordan Love, and even Sam Darnold in Minnesota. And I think that's where the expectation meets the road along with the schedule. They still have to play San Francisco. They have to play Sean McVay in LA, and then the AFC South. That's going to be a very difficult schedule to navigate through. And if I had to take a shot right now, it would go under the 8.5.
What's so important for this team is the rhythm they found last year on the defensive side of the ball, and that rhythm that made them decide to keep their head coach in Matt Eberflus. If that's real, and all of a sudden Caleb is not only supported by those wide receivers in that running back room, but a top 12, top 8 defense, now you have a really exciting football team, and I know the fans in Chicago cannot wait. Joe Lisi, Kevin Walsh will have you covered throughout this pro season.
All right, these two haven't seen a gym since the caveman discovered fire, but no matter. It's Teddy against Jack in our player prop showdown. Today, the boys are going to debate Cleveland quarterback Deshaun Watson.
Let's see if we can massage the numbers a little bit and find something to do with Deshaun Watson this week. Over under 219.5 passing yards. Let's start with this. Since the start of the 2021 season, Deshaun Watson has gone over this number a grand total of 3 times. So we're not talking about a guy who's routinely been going over the number. He didn't have any preseason snaps, not a one. And oh, by the way, he's been dealing with quote, quote, general arm soreness, which is not exactly bet on, in my opinion. And let's not forget about Dallas's defense. A top 10 unit last year, they allowed only 6.8 yards per pass attempt. I don't think it's going to be easy, whether Cleveland's ahead or behind. I don't think it's going to be easy for Watson to get over this number. We've already seen under money come in, Jack. I would not be surprised if we see more, for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious if you're going to just look at what the body of work do we go under in this thing. But there are some reasons to look over. By the way, if there was a drinking game where you had massage as you're drinking, you may not make the end of the segment. Because the reality is that over the last couple of years, He's been doing a little bit more of that than he has been playing football. Has not played a lot, and when he has played, he has not gone over that total. But Dallas is a different animal. I think that they realize what we all realize is that Watson is, as he goes, they're going to go. They're not going to let them line up and run the ball. So I think Dallas is going to stop the run first and make Deshaun Watson throw the ball down the field because of the lack of success in the box and up front, believing that his inaccurate passing is not going to get it done. That's going to open up more passing attempts, also get us over the 219. And if it's a blowout, you're going to be throwing it late.
I expect it from him, not from you, Teddy.
Well, we've got to use it. You know?
All right, so in our
Too
weekly email chain, Jack here made sure to point out that he went 17-5 with his best bet slot. Is your arm sore from?
I mean, that's worth something, right?
I mean, can he stay hot? What about Teddy? We're going to find out. Week 1 best bets are next. And welcome back to Beat the Odds. Is it just me or is the desk wider this year?
Oh, no, the desk has definitely gotten wider, and we need more space for Jack's large head. You know, you went 17-5 last. We get it.
I lost 7 pounds so I can make room for my head.
There you go.
17-5. Did I mention that?
Yes.
You did.
Thank
Teddy
you.
also had a very good season, and since he doesn't have the big ego, he gets to start today.
So let's talk about Atlanta -3 against Pittsburgh. We'll start with this. Pittsburgh at the quarterback position, well, Denver gave up on Russell Wilson. Seattle gave up on Russell Wilson. Pittsburgh will. They just haven't done it yet. Atlanta, new coach, new quarterback from a team that underachieved last year, lost a ton of close games. Bottom line, I want a team going up versus a team headed down. -3, count me in with Atlanta.
Week 1, I like playing coaches that I know what I'm going to get early in the season, and I like fading the general public. Detroit, one of the biggest liabilities for most of the sports books to have an incredible season. LA, very good in openers and with a bye with McVay, to the tune of 6-1. I like Los Angeles to go on the road and at least cover the number against Detroit.
Is it true you got 17-5 tattooed across the small of your back?
You know what? I went up here because nothing happens down there.
It's good for your tube tops.
Exactly right. I like to get covered up when I wear my two-piece.
Yes.
Somehow we made it to season 3, guys. It's a miracle to all. Enjoy the football this weekend. We'll see you back here next week.